following podcast contains spoilers and words like piss, shit, and fuck. We watch the thing. We watch the thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to We Watched a Thing with Billy and Dave. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, mate. Yourself?
I'm doing good. We've got some fancy new artwork up for the pod.
It's pretty, isn't it?
It is. You got your pencil out and drew some pictures.
I did. I doodled.
Looks awesome, mate. It looks good. What have you been up to anyway?
Work's ramping up. Normally I get January as kind of downtime to sort of catch up on all the shit that's piled up in the preceding year. Everything's kicking off a lot earlier this year, so yeah, I've been a busy boy at work, so not a lot of downtime, which has sucked. But
I've been the same. Work has been fairly hectic, but I still managed to hop on over to Movie Reviews in 20 Qs and do an episode with Sam about Way of Water, which I think is going to come out probably same day that this ep comes out. So that's a bit of fun. Go check that out. And even though back in October I said that I was going to go with fortnightly, instead, not only have we not done that, we've been doing 2 movies a bloody week, mate. It's just too much fun.
There's so much stuff coming out.
Well, that's the thing. There's so much to watch. So shall we get straight into it then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's kick it off with Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre, a 2023 spy action comedy film directed by Guy Ritchie, written by Ivan Atkinson and Marn Davies. It stars Jason Statham, Aubrey Plaza, Josh Hartnett, Cary Elwes, Bugzy, Malone, and Hugh Grant. And what is it about, Dave?
Spy hijinks. Cockney accents.
It's pretty much it. Yeah, it's Ritchie, so Cockney accents.
It's Ritchie going back to his roots to a point with fairly large ensemble cast, some convoluted plot hijinks, international intrigue. Statham heads up a team of the best in their field type, unconventional, international adventuring espionage types, and they're gallivanting around the globe chasing MacGuffins and trying to beat rival teams to said MacGuffins. Fun and hijinks ensue.
Well, let's get into this then. I'm really excited to talk about this one because I know that you were extremely keen. You messaged me, must have been about 6 weeks ago when you first saw the trailer saying, "Oh my God, we're doing this on the show." And okay, so let's get straight into it. I'm going to show my cards early here, only because I think this is going to be really fun, and I think we're going to disagree quite a bit. I fucking loved this movie.
Oh, yeah, well, why wouldn't you? It's a lot of fun. I was, as you say, I was super hyped. The trailer was fantastic. You've got Guy Ritchie getting back to the shit that made him famous, the stuff that we loved him for. Yeah. A cast of, people I love, people that everyone loves. Everyone loves Hugh Grant. Everyone loves Aubrey Plaza. How could you not? Statham doing the stuff that we like Statham doing, as opposed to, whenever he deviates from form and we all hate him. But this is the stuff that we like to see him doing. So, yeah, it very much came, showing its cards as this is Guy Ritchie getting back to being the powerhouse director of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sadly, I think he failed. This movie bummed me out. I was hyped for it. I was so hyped. And it's hard to put my finger on because the cast were all doing what I wanted them to do. They're all, Aubrey's doing Aubrey, Statham's doing Statham, Hugh Grant's doing, the Hugh Grant 2.0 stuff that we've seen him doing in more recent films. In this
really playing against
second half of his career as... Yeah. And he's been really good at it. And he was really good in this. And other folk I really like Max Beasley crops up, who we don't see nearly enough of, and yet it just kind of left me a bit flat. And I can't quite put my finger on why. I think the plot was a little bit convoluted and not particularly well written. The individual scenes, there were a lot of scenes that I was enjoying, but I just found myself a bit bored.
Yeah, right. I didn't get bored once. I found the humor actually really on point, which I don't always with these kind of films, but most of the time I thought the movie was wanting to be funny. I genuinely thought it was. Like you said, I thought the acting was fantastic. Like, Hugh Grant stole the show, but everyone else in this movie is playing on almost the same level, and they're all having so much fun with it, which to me, that's the kind of thing that always stops me getting bored, even if the plot might be overly convoluted. If I can see that the people on screen are just genuinely having a hell of a good time, it's hard for that not to be contagious, especially when, like, Hugh Grant is having so much fun with this role. Statham.
And I should say, I didn't hate my time with it. I think I was coming in with really high expectations. I think
that never helps.
If this film wins any awards, it should go to the people that made the trailer, because the trailer was all the good stuff and more.
Yeah,
and there wasn't a whole lot left in the actual film that wasn't in the trailer. But I loved Aubrey Plaza and Statham together. I would like to see a sequel to this, because I think most of the failings, most of the problems I had were to do with the script.
Yeah.
So, and some of the direction. There's a little bit of god-awful direction that we'll get to. But I would like to see a sequel, because I liked all of the characters, and I liked the chemistry between them, particularly within Statham's team. So
agreed, yeah. When the movie was over, I turned to Noosk and said, fuck, I would watch 20 more of these. I've made it no secret that I'm no James Bond fan. I don't care for that style of spy thriller. This is, with a good helping of cheese, this is what I need to find a spy film enjoyable. And Cary Elwes, I'm with you. I loved the chemistry throughout the team, but I would just watch him be like the Boswell character, recruiting different kinds of people. Like,
equal parts sort of Boswell and Basil Exposition. It was fantastic.
Yes, yeah.
His humor was brilliant. I loved his. The cynical note, because it was a nice counterpoint to Statham's sort of acerbic stubbornness, to have this prim and proper but equally cynical and anti-establishment character as well. The characters were all great. I did really enjoy the cast and the characters.
Well, let's get into the story and the script then, which you think is the biggest weakness. I loved the opening of this film. I loved that the movie just started and you're into the mission. The very first line basically is like, I have a mission for you. And it's like, yes, that's all I want. Give me Cary Elwes walking down a hallway. I could listen to the clip-clop of those beautiful feet all day, and then we're straight into the story. Where did it take a wrong turn for you? Like, was this the kind of thing where you were really into it at the start, and then as it got more convoluted, you dropped out? Or were you kind of bored from the get-go?
I think that intro with Elwes and the clip-clop walk down the hall was very great. That was great. That grabbed me. I was in. It kind of felt to me like there'd been a movie that was about 20 minutes longer, and Ritchie had been told to cut it down, and so he didn't want to lose the meat of it, and so he trimmed the front end. Because the Elwes bit was great, but it felt like we were missing some of the establishment of character, particularly for Statham. Because we go from that with, Elwes going in, we need your guys. Oh, well, I want to use, this guy. Oh, he's a bit of a wild card. Oh, no, but he's the best. It fairly deliberately cliched, trite stuff that we've seen many times before, but it worked.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt that there was a little bit missing after that, where we would have spent a bit of time with Statham on his holiday or doing something, just 5 minutes before he's suddenly in a mission. And it felt like they'd had to trim some flab, and that's the flab they decided to trim. But I think it's the poorer for it. Either that, or the writing of the script is just a little bit lacking at the front end. But it felt to me like they'd had to cull some stuff.
That's so funny. So we had completely different experiences then, because I loved that we got right into it. And I actually really enjoyed that all of the backstory we needed about these characters we got as the film went on. I actually quite liked that we didn't do the whole kind of title card introduction to each character. And 'cause you're right. I think in a lot of movies,
not the cliches, but
yeah, because I think you're right. I think in a lot of movies, the film would have started with Statham, with maybe a mission gone wrong or something, like a little 5-10 minute scene, and then you're into Cary Elwes getting the mission. But I really like that this didn't do that personally. Yeah.
Oh, see, I wanted a bit more. I felt like the movie shortchanged Statham a little bit, but certainly everyone else in his team. So if you think back to De Palma's Mission Impossible, where you start off, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen a movie that's about 40 years old, but you start off with what you think is going to be the crew. It's Emilio Estevez, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And you follow them through a very exciting mission for the first sort of 5-10 minutes, and you've got this sort of, this is all the cold open, and then they all get killed apart from Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
and then you get your title card. It's like, oh shit, what's happening? But when you then get your next team, you get a proper introduction to each of them. You Luther and Jean Reno, etc. You get at least a bit of a verbal intro so that you know who these characters are. All we kind of get in Operation Fortune is Aubrey Plaza. Well, she used to work for the rival guy. Oh, well, we'll get her because the guy that we want has gone to work for the rival guy. But you don't find out anything about her beyond the fact that she used to work for Michael, whatever his name is. And so I spent the first half of the movie going, is she going to be a traitor? Is she still working for that guy? Which I don't think the movie wanted me to do. I just don't think they gave me enough backstory for me to accept that she's left him. 3 seconds of, quick cut flashback to her slapping Mike in the face and walking out because he's tried to crack onto her or something.
Yeah.
Would I think have addressed that? And I was surprised because if any director's going to give me little quick cut edits of something in a flashback, I would have thought Guy Ritchie's the guy that would do it. He loves a quick cut. He loves to have little snippets of visual to convey a lot of information in a small space of time.
Yeah, I was going to say it's really funny because this is almost like it's simultaneously the most Guy Ritchie and the least Guy Ritchie. Like, I think there's a lot that is obviously his kind of bread and butter, like you've got the whole gangster spy type stuff, you've got the Cockney accents, you've got a lot of fun and stuff. But you're right, I think the directorial style has changed a lot since, say, Snatch or Lock, Stock.
It felt to me like, which could well be the case given the time frame and how long it is since those films, that he's sort of lost his signature style in the intervening years, but he's desperately attempting to get it back. So he's trying to craft a film in that ilk.
Yeah.
But he doesn't kind of have that mojo anymore. It's too long since he's done it. He's out of practice. And
I can't think what the last
I don't think
Ritchie
it's
film
come
is.
as naturally to... Was The Gentleman him?
It was, but I didn't see that. I haven't seen either of the Sherlock Holmes.
The Gentleman, I think, was a much better film than this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay.
It was a little bit less, I don't know, sort of flashy, but I think it was better written. And I just think it had more of that Guy Ritchie persona that we all loved in Lock, Stock and Snatch, etc.
Yeah.
Than I think this does. And then towards the end, there's a little bit of M. Night Shyamalan FPS video game direction during one of the gunfights that almost made me walk out of the theatre.
In this film?
Yep.
No way.
Did you not? Did you not?
I was just having such a good time with this film. Wow. It sounds like we had almost completely different experiences. Maybe it's because my expectations weren't high.
It didn't belong in this film any more than than Shyamalan should have put it in Glass. But that whole final act of Glass, which was the cherry on the turd cake that was that film, where suddenly you're in first-person shooter land with the camera looking down the barrel of a gun as you jerkily run around
Oh, that's the shot you're talking about. I really, really liked that.
Oh, you didn't? It was awful.
I did. I loved the gun point of view shot where it's not looking, because it's not.
It was
not
sort of in
down
reverse,
the barrel of the gun. It's looking
but
back.
It was still that jerky video game thing.
Oh yeah, no, I have
never seen it work well in a film ever. It just it takes me back to The Rock in fucking Doom and Shyamalan's awful glass. And I was sitting there just going, Ritchie, what are you doing?
I have such little recollection of Glass. I have such little recollection of Glass that it didn't make me think of that at all. I remember thinking, it's a pretty cool shot.
I'm being a little bit unfair. This film is nowhere near the steaming pile that Glass was, but that little sequence in what was otherwise, I think, a great action sequence that I was really enjoying, and then suddenly we're in video game land, and I was just sitting there going, Ritchie, what are you doing?
I actually dug that. I dug that quite a lot. In fact, I really enjoyed the entire last third act of this film. I loved the progression of Grant's character, actually, because it's funny, you knew that he was like this big crime lord, but he spends so much of the film being kind of bumbling that it's like, really? And then that final act when he goes into that room and he gives that really like hard speech, and that
was good stuff.
Fuck, that's good. That is just so good. I loved that turn. I actually really enjoyed the story of the film. Like, yes, it's a bit convoluted, and like all spy thrillers, especially action spy thrillers, you get a lot of that. Oh, okay, well, now we have to go to this country, and now we have to go here, and now we have to go here, because, you know, this is where the MacGuffin is at this point in time. Like, yes, it suffers from that as much as every other film of this genre. But I was having a lot of fun
genre, though. You're
exactly.
going, and most of the Bond films are the same. It's just part and parcel of telling this global story that has a set piece here, and then a set piece in Istanbul, and then a set piece in Helsinki, and then a set piece in, I don't know, Machu Picchu or whatever. Short of having the map on screen with the dotted line plane going place to place, you kind of have you just accept that as part of the genre, and that didn't bother me. And I kind of feel like I'm being too hard, because I did enjoy my time with it. It suffered, obviously, because my expectations were so high, but I did enjoy all the characters. I did enjoy most of the action stuff. Hugh Grant, as you say, was amazing. We had a couple of great sniper from a distance picking people off, which I just love. Ever since, Usual Suspects did it. The highly underrated Losers did it, where Chris Evans finger gunning people and having them shot by a sniper from a kilometre away. And then you had it again in this, which I love that scene. I loved a lot of the scenes in this. I just felt that the story that kind of tied them together was not particularly interesting or well written.
I mean, and
it's weird. I should say, I think the dialogue and the individual scenes were good. I just think the story was a bit narrative.
Yeah. I get that. I mean, it's always a risk, and for me, it was a move that pulled off. I really liked the idea that they did not even know what they were looking for. Like, there's something about that for me is fun, and it's like hanging a lampshade on the MacGuffin. It's like this thing really doesn't matter at all, to the point where even the characters in the film don't know what it is. Like, it's literally just a plot device to get all the action happening. And I actually really enjoyed that. But it is a risk, because it does run that, if you don't even know what they're searching for, how can you be interested?
Yeah, and it was very much that sort of latter Roger Moore, James Bond era of it being a completely unrealistic science fiction thing. It's a computer program that will enable you to basically do magic.
Well, yeah. It reminded me very, very. I can't even remember which Fast and Furious it is, where they're looking for whatever. I think they call it the God's Eye, and it's like, okay, well, that's not a real thing. but yeah, it didn't bother me too much. I mean, you throw Aubrey Plaza in a film, I'm there. You add Aubrey Plaza, fucking Cary Elwes, I'm there and a half. Like, I was having so much fun. Yeah. Did you think that there was a bad performance in the film?
No. Nothing that stood out to me. I mean, you've got some forgettable people. The two kind of tech billionaire guys were pretty vanilla.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they were meant to be charismatic. They were meant to be nerdy billionaire, nothing characters. I could have done with a little bit more moustache twirling villainy from was his name Mike, the rival Statham. I could have done with a little bit more. He was a little bit bland.
I'll agree. Actually,
a bit more.
I think character-wise and plot-wise, that was the weakest side of it for me. It was very, very clear from the start that Mike had gone rogue. It was never really explained what his motivation for that was. Really, I do agree that side of the story was definitely weak for me.
Yeah, I think it needed I can't even remember who played the part. That's how bland the character was. Was it a name actor?
I don't think so. It was nobody that I recognised.
Yeah, see, that needed a Dougray Scott or someone that could...
Peter Ferdinando.
Whoever. I could see a Dougray Scott or an Ed Norton or someone in that role.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That can do... because Statham's got such a presence on screen, to believe that this guy was sort of his arch rival and his equal in most things, I think it needed someone.
That's true.
With a bit of screen presence, and I mean,
get The Rock in there doing a Cockney accent.
Hobbs and Shaw, Ruse de Guerre. I'll be there for the next one if there is one. I don't think there will. It's early days, but it doesn't look like it's setting the box office on fire against, a 130-odd million budget. So
yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, according to Wikipedia at the moment, box office is 5.5 million, which is very, very
soft. Even though it's sort of only preview stuff, it's still very soft, particularly when you compare it to the film we'll be talking about next.
Well, how about we get over to that? How are you scoring Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre?
Look, I can't go below a pass mark because it's got Aubrey Plaza in it and my heart just won't let me. So I'm going to give it like a 5.5.
Holy crap. This, we've only been doing this together for a couple of months now, but this is going to be our biggest disparity for sure, because I was very, very close to giving this an 8.
Ouch. Wow.
I landed on a 7 in the end because I'm like, oh, look, I'm sure that part of this is just, the fun of having a chalk top and being in the cinema, so I will revisit it. But yeah, I had so much fun with this movie. I think because I was looking forward to it so much. Yeah.
The trailer had me so excited for it. And I think the further I got into it, the more I kind of started sort of sagging into a seat going, is it going to kind of, give me more? It's fine. It's fine. It's better than Johnny English, but, it's not kind of, I wanted, the same, I guess, energy and excitement and fun that sort of, a few decades ago people would have got from seeing in like Flynn or something, James Coburn spy films, where it's over the top, it's all action, it's all fun, it's just non-stop in your face enjoyment. And I guess kind of, I didn't get that energy from it. It kind of felt, like a bit better, but sort of, late era Brosnan.
I was just going to say, who would have been awesome as Mike? Fucking Brosnan. Like, get an actual Bond in there as the arch nemesis.
He's awful now, though. That was what I'm glad you reminded me, because the thing that it most reminded me of, and I should preface, it's a lot better than this, but the most recent Brosnan film I've seen, where he plays a master thief who has a team of thieves under him and they gallivant around the globe. There's a lot of DNA shared between these two films, and it was, I think, my worst film of 2019 or whatever it was. It was fucking awful, and he was awful. He was one of the worst things in it. He was so bad.
Wow. Now I've got to watch that. I've got to look up what that was called.
I'll look it up in Letterboxd and I'll let you know. I don't recommend you see it because it's fucking terrible. I think I gave it a half.
Oh,
Half
wow.
was my star rating in Letterboxd.
Well, let's get over to a film which I think I can already guess that both of us are going to recommend. M3GAN, or M3GAN, is a 2022 American science fiction horror film directed by Gerard Johnstone, written by Akela Cooper, from a story by Cooper and James Wan, who of course we all love. Stars Allison Williams and Violet McGraw, with Amie Donald physically portraying M3GAN and Jenna Davis voicing the character. And what is this one about, Dave?
It's superficially, it's about a creepy doll, much in the vein of Chucky and many other films.
Yes,
but I mean, there's depending how deep you want to delve, it's about grief, it's about parenting, it's about multiple facets of psychology. I think there's a lot in this film.
Yeah, I was really actually surprised by that, I have to say. And what I like,
but it's about a creepy doll.
Well, yeah, and all of that stuff is not really surface. Like, this isn't like an art house film where it's like genuinely exploring grief or anything. It's almost like that's a byproduct of the entertainment, which I think is actually really, really good, because this is an entertaining film, first and foremost.
Oh, gotcha.
I had a hell of a lot of fun with this. This was a good week for me, because I saw this and then Operation Fortune. News famously doesn't like horror, but she saw the trailer for M3GAN and was like, I think I could handle it.
What is it? It's only M in Australia. I think it's PG-13 in the States.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of nasty in there.
Exactly, yeah. So, it was Friday the 13th, worked out perfectly for date night to see this, and she loved it as well. This was a lot of fun.
Well, it's very funny.
Yes.
I was laughing.
Which I was expecting, but I thought it would be more campy funny. Like, I thought that a lot of the humour...
like horror movie fun, like Chucky or anything like that, but I think it's intentionally
but it's not.
funny.
I think a lot of the dialogue is, genuinely funny.
Yeah. And I mean, I've never experienced the sort of quote-unquote uncanny valley effect in a film before.
Yeah.
The films where supposedly people find it, Polar Express, a lot of those...
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, well, even less so. Not even a hint of it there. I could sort of see where people... Because Polar Express particularly, you've got Tom Hanks, who's a very recognisable face, so you kind of have a reference point to experience the difference. I've never had any of the uncomfortable experience viewing those things. This one, I guess because it's a live-action film... rather than a straight, fully CG film, the design on M3GAN is creepy as fuck. She's so unsettling in how realistic the face is.
Yes, but still very doll-like.
Yeah, it's completely doll-like, but you can understand in that situation why everyone would do a double take. Yes. And then go, something's really wrong with that kid.
Yes, yeah.
I think the design is absolutely superlative. It's
I agree.
Perfect amount of lifelike versus doll-like. And put me on record, this shits on Chucky or any of the others in terms of being a creepy doll. Chucky's funny, and it's kind of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, Chucky is campy. Chucky's since the first one, and progressively even more so as it's gotten on. Chucky is very much about the camp factor.
None of the Child's Play films have I ever thought that's a scary antagonist.
Yeah.
It's a tiny doll. You'd pick it up by the hair. You'd throw it across the room. At no point have I ever gone, those people should be in danger. No, they're all idiots if they're being in any way threatened by this tiny doll.
Yeah.
M3GAN's as scary as shit. I'd move out and burn the house.
Yeah. And even more than the way she looks, I think it's great design. The way she moves, like the way she walks is very unsettling. It's off-putting the way she walks around.
And a couple of genius choices, like when she chases that fucking little...
Oh, and she gets down on all fours like an animal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean...
Genius. Yeah.
Unexpected, but it just added that extra level of malevolence to her. But even when she goes after, what's his name, Ronnie Cheng, and stops and dances in the hallway.
Yes.
Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah, I agree. I was honestly surprised by how good I thought this movie was. I expected to have fun with it, but I didn't expect to actually like actively think it was good, which I do. I think this is a very good film, and I think that you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't like this. I think it's genius in its production.
I mean, it's doing exceptionally well, and how, I mean, one thing I was wanting to talk to you about as a VFX guy. Is it impressive that this film only cost $12 million? Because to me, it seems incredibly impressive that something that presumably has a lot of effects shots, like that's not an actress that looks like that. I'm assuming it's an actress with a whole layer of computer-generated makeup over the top of her.
I mean, there's no way that face is practical at all. Like, that face is 100% CG. Sure.
That's what I would have thought, but I'm assuming there is a fair amount of high-end puppetry in there with silicon face and animatronics and that sort of. But even that would not be cheap at this level.
It is very impressive that's
very cheap.
And I mean that's what
Jason Blum. That's
I was going to say that's
he
what
churns this shit out.
Always done well.
Malignant looked great for what it was. I mean, it's not its best film, but it was a lot of fun again. And it had some cool effects, practical effects stuff in it. And that's just what he does. He knows how to churn this stuff out really cheaply.
Exactly.
But still
that's what Blum has always
film
done.
Quality.
And, like, love him or hate him, obviously there are some people who really dislike Blumhouse. Paul from The Countdown, I think, has gone on record a few times saying how shit Blumhouse generally are.
But and I've said this to Paul before. He remembers things like Fantasy Island and Truth or Dare. I think that was one. He remembers the shit, and he forgets about. He sometimes forgets about the Get Outs and the really good. And they've got, I think, sure, 2/3 of their stuff is probably 2-star and below fodder. That's all made money. But at the other end, you've got stuff that was also cheap to make, but is really good.
Yeah, I think what I would say about Blumhouse is, love him or hate him, he is an exceptional producer. Like, he is exceptionally good at producing films. And he doesn't always produce good films, but I think that he really knows what... Yes, he really, really knows what he's doing. Yeah. And so when you combine that with a script that is great, with direction that is great, with acting and performances that are great, he is able to produce an extremely good quality film for very cheap. And it is honestly shocking.
He and James Wan, when they're co-producing, they're batting 100, really. The worst of what they've put forward is at least pretty good, and the best of it is outstanding.
Yes. Was The Invisible Man Blumhouse?
Pretty sure it was. Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And that was another one that I thought
you were a bit higher on that than me, but I think even I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. So it's no surprise that a sequel to M3GAN is already in development. And I hope that the sequel is M3GAN with a 4 for the A.
It has to be. Meek Fawn. But, I am nervous about what it's going to be, though, because I think this movie is perfectly bookended with a start and an end. It doesn't scream out to me other than financially for a sequel. And so I'm hoping that they're not going to have some ham-fisted thing where they've got a director for hire and they just churn something out because it's going to make money.
Yeah. We haven't even really spoken about the rest of the cast yet because we were talking about how great M3GAN is.
Allison Williams. So good. I love her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. But even Violet McGraw as Katie, I was very surprised how good the child performance was in this film.
Yeah, and I think I hope I'm not inventing this in my brain. I'm sure I saw someone mention somewhere that that actress is the sister of the actress from Black Phone. Oh,
right. Okay.
I think I'm not making that up. Who was also very good, even though that movie was nowhere near as good as this. No, Violet McGraw was fantastic.
Yeah.
And given that she's in, 80% of the film, really, it's she could have sunk this if she'd been a regular child actor and stunk, but she's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. I think that's where I'm like, how does this work as a sequel? Because not only is M3GAN gone, and I mean, sure, you could reboot the technology, but I mean, you would hope that that's not something that, you know, Allison is going to do. Like, who is going to bring back M3GAN in the sequel?
And is it going to be M3GAN or will it be some other doll? Because let's face it, the M3GAN doll has been smashed to bits. It's not like that silicon face still exists. And if you were trying to improve that technology and go, okay, well, the last one turned into a psychotic killer, let's put some more safeguards in place in the firmware and do a 2.0. Surely you would at least change the face.
I don't think a sequel would work with a different... I mean, think about it. There's a reason that in like 8 or 9 Child's Play films...
No, exactly. That's what I mean.
You know, I
don't see it working without M3GAN.
Yes, yeah.
Like, it's not going to work. I mean,
she's the meme. She's what made this movie viral. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't work if the sequel's called Todd and it's a boy doll that looks... That's not going to... It needs to be this same blonde, creepy girl.
Yes, 100%.
Which concerns me because I can't think of any scenario where anyone in that company would use the same face on the next doll.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Allison Williams I thought was outstanding. I hope we see more of her. She's been in a few films over the last sort of, I don't know, 2-3 years or whatever that I've been.
Well, she was the girlfriend in Get Out, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was in another outstanding film, which not a lot of people saw, called The Perfection, which was a horror film about, she plays a cellist or a violinist? Cellist, I think.
Okay.
And she's a sort of this child prodigy musician, and there's a rival musician, and it goes some very dark places. I'm not going to say any more about it, but it was the few people that saw it, I think, were very, very high on it. The Perfection. Yeah. So yeah, check that out, people, if you haven't seen it. She was in that as well a few years ago. I think it was a Netflix film off the top of my head. But she's another. I mean, someone should be paying Lena Dunham finder's fees because she came out of Girls as well.
Oh, yes.
We got Adam Driver and we got her out of this one TV show. So someone needs to be giving Lena Dunham some money somewhere.
It's nice that some good stuff came out of Girls. Fuck, I hated that show. I'm not a Lena Dunham fan at all.
I never watched more than like half an episode. I was never a... Yeah. It was... I don't even think...
I forgot that's where Adam Driver came from. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Allison Williams was another one with that core cast. But yeah, no, I knew her mainly from The Perfection, and she's incredible in that, and I thought she was great in this as well.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you and I are both pretty horror guys. Like, we like a lot of horror movies.
Yep.
Were you scared at all?
No.
No. And
I found it basically a comedy. I thought it was very, very funny.
Yes. Yes.
I think there was enough of a creep factor to the design of M3GAN that there were a few scenes that sort of made me go, with the way she moved and stuff. But at no point did I think it was scary. I think I think deliberately so. I mean, they obviously the rating is pitching this as something. Oh. My 10-year-old daughter wants to see this.
I was going to say, I think this is a great introduction to horror movie. This is the kind of thing that, like I would have gone to see with a group of friends, like late primary school, early high school, like all had a laugh and felt grown up, even though it's not actually scary in any way.
That's Blum's business savvy.
Yeah.
He knew this film would work just as well without a lot of gore, and I think even Paul was, from memory on their review, I mean, he would have obviously loved to see some eviscerations and red stuff sprayed everywhere, but I think even he thought this worked just as well as it is. And I think that's the business nous of Blum going, this doesn't need, and in fact I think works just as well without a lot of on-screen gore.
I think that's the sign of a...
And that's why it's got, it's off $12 million. It's already, I think, over $100 million at the box office because you've got 12-year-olds that can go and see this thing. Well, 13-year-olds, PG-13. It's basically anyone can go to it, and I don't think parents are going to be too scared about the kids saying, "Oh, we're going off to see M3GAN." Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the sign of a good movie, actually, of that people who are usually into scary horror movies can watch this and still like it as much as we did and not be put off by the fact that it's not scary. I think it's...
I think it would be different if it pulled its punches, but it doesn't. It doesn't show you the gore, but she still kills that obnoxious little shitbag of a kid at the camp or whatever. Yeah, she kills the minute he's on screen.
If a movie kills a dog, that's not holding punches.
Dogs, old ladies, and kids, and they don't pull punches. And while you don't see that boy getting killed, you almost see his ear ripped off, and you see a big bloody smear down the road where his corpse is dragged by the car. It's so it's not that that they pull their punches in terms of deaths or anything. They're just very clever about what goes on screen, so that the classification board allow them to scrape it through. And I mean, as a PG-13, and I mean, this is probably kind of pushing the envelope a little bit in terms of what happens.
Yeah. So how are you scoring M3GAN then?
I reckon it's an 8.
Yeah, right. You're going to be pissed at me then because I'm giving it a 7, the exact same as Operation Fortune. I had a great fun weekend. I recommend both these movies. I think they're good fun.
Yeah. I think I'd recommend Operation Fortune, but I'd probably say, you can wait for streaming for it. I don't think it desperately needs a big screen.
True. That's absolutely true.
And it's probably that's the case probably for both of these. And M3GAN's already on streaming here. So anyone can get to it. But I think Operation Fortune is worth seeing because fingers crossed it at least gets a sequel, if not a franchise of these characters, and you kind of want to know who they are. So I think there's enough there to enjoy that I'd recommend it to people as a fun, like, popcorn watch at home.
Yeah.
But M3GAN, I think, I had a huge amount of fun with M3GAN. And we haven't really, I mean, while we're sort of scoring it, we haven't really touched on kind of the deeper aspects of the script. And I think it very cleverly, quickly establishes the sort of tragic situation that Violet McGraw's character finds herself in. The parents are killed and she's in the car, dumped with her aunt, who is a lot younger than her mum, has no interest in having kids, very career-focused, obviously doesn't want to, she wants to be the one looking after her niece, but at the same time she's completely ill-prepared, has no idea how to do it, is, presumably going through a fair amount of grief of her own, having lost her sister, and then, is saddled with this young girl who is obviously in the throes of sorrow herself and acting up and all the rest of it. It's not surprising that, given her job and what she does at work, that she would lean on this sort of robotic crutch to, particularly when Katie sort of attaches herself so quickly to M3GAN.
Yeah. I thought the script was incredibly tight and well written. And I mean, it's, there are huge amounts of parents out there that already use the crutch of, say, television or iPads to virtually raise their children. Yeah.
And that's, I was thinking that all the way through, is swap M3GAN out for an iPad, and I kind of feel like I'm just looking at a window on my life. Busy parents all over the world are doing exactly this, not necessarily to deal with grief, but to deal with the pressures of, having to work full time and have kids, and keep them entertained and all the rest of it. And as the psychologist says at one point, sure, Katie seems completely happy. But she's not dealing with her grief.
Yeah.
This is allowing her to escape her grief. All she's doing is kind of postponing dealing with it.
Yeah.
And is that doing more harm than good? And I think while it doesn't delve too deeply into that, it never deviates from the genre of film that this is. I think it incorporates enough of that it had me thinking all the way through about
I agree.
The characters and what it sort of meant in broader terms. I think it very cleverly didn't shy away from that without letting it sort of become too maudlin and overtake the fun and the progression of the action stuff that you wanted to get to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that kind of background that does run throughout the whole thing, I think it gives you that extra level of understanding the character's motivations and stuff as well. Like, even though Gemma, Allison Williams, is making kind of bad decisions almost the entire movie, you don't really feel that way about it. You feel like they're understandable decisions, and you kind of feel bad for her, which is super important in a horror movie. Yeah, because there's nothing worse than watching a movie going, oh, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's so stupid. But you're kind of not doing that in this movie at all, really, because you understand her grief and, the struggle of having this kid kind of dumped on her.
Yeah. I think her actions are exactly probably what I would have done in her situation.
Yeah.
Why would she... She's dedicated years of her life to creating this sort of robotic companion. Yeah. And part of the reason for it is not just as a toy, but as a surrogate friend / teacher / whatever.
Yeah. And now she has the perfect case study for it.
Yeah, it's there's a convenience there because she can get some testing done on this thing without needing to involve her boss or anything overly. And she genuinely believes in the work that she's put into this thing, that it will do for Katie, what she designed it to do. Which, initially, obviously, it appears to do that.
Yeah. Nice. All right, well, what are we getting to next week, mate? Mate, I reckon next week we're heading to Throwback Town, buddy.
How far back? How far back are we going?
I don't know, man. How old is Barbara Streisand now? I've got a patron request from wonderful patron of the show, Paul Leonido, who's a fantastic guy. He's a poet, a wonderful poet, actually. Oh. And it's been a while. I think actually the last film he made me watch was Arrival, which I fucking love that movie.
Can't go wrong with that one.
He's never steered me wrong before, and this time he wants us to watch Yentl. So how do you feel about that, buddy? Have you seen it before?
I saw it probably. I'm going to say probably when it came out. I think, what is it?
I've never seen it.
Early 80s, isn't it? Very early 80s? Or is it even... It's not 70s, is it? I think it's early 80s.
Paul has made me watch a Babs movie before. We watched... now I can't even remember the name of it. I think it had a cat in it. I remember enjoying it. It was a comedy. Babs was good in it. Now I can't think what it was.
Like
Topher hated it.
Funny Girl or...
Nah, it was more obscure than that. I think it was from the 60s even. I'll find out. I'll mention it next week when we... So there we go. So let's get to Yentl, buddy.
No, I even though I would have been a probably almost pre-teenager, I'm assuming when I saw it, I do distinctly remember that I enjoyed it, which at that age, obviously there's a lot there. And obviously it's one of her most lauded performances. I think did she get Best Actress for that?
I think she did. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was around. It was in that spate of cross-dressing films. I think Victor Victoria was around the same time, and Tootsie shortly thereafter. It was all very, very funny having men as women and women as men back then. I'm keen.
Sweet. That's next week sorted. All right. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all under the handle at wewatchedathing. If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing, and we'll catch you next week.
See ya.